Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on back. In this one today, we're going to be ranking the top 10 hardest Easter eggs in COD Zombies. We will only be doing the Treyarch games since I don't have much experience with the non-Treyarch maps. So let's get right into it. Coming into our number 10 spot, we have Moon, more specifically Black Ops 1 Moon, because in Black Ops 3 you have Gobblegum, which can make this Easter egg incredibly easy. The Moon Easter egg doesn't have the most challenging steps in all of Call of Duty Zombies. In fact, most of these steps are pretty straightforward. The most difficult one that I could probably think of is the Simon Says step. What makes Moon a difficult map, however, is the amount of good RNG that you need in order to complete this Easter egg in a respectable time. You have to get the wave gun and the Gersh device, which at first doesn't seem too bad, but then you have to get the QEDs and then the Gersh device again if you're playing on solo. And on top of all of that, you have to get lucky with the excavators and hope that they breach open Tunnel 6. The first time that I ever did this Easter egg without Gobblegums, it took me 2.5 hours because I had horrible box luck. Then, about a couple weeks later, I went back through it with my friends, and it took about 30 minutes. So, depending on your luck, this can either be the hardest Easter egg to complete, or one of the easiest. So, for that, we're going to be putting Moon at our number 10 spot. Moving into our number 9 spot, we have Shangri-La. Now, this Easter egg is similar to Moon, where you do need a good amount of luck in order to beat it. Getting the baby gun out of the box isn't an easy feat in of itself, but not only does this Easter egg require a good amount of luck, but it requires a great amount of communication. Everyone on your team has to know what they're doing in order for you to have a good chance at doing this Easter egg. The tile step, for example, requires a lot of communication between multiple people. You have to constantly tell your teammates what the symbol is, as well as if they're standing on a tile or not. I like this Easter egg in general. It's the only one where your teammates don't have to hold a zombie while the professional on your team does all the steps. For Shangri-La, even if you don't have the baby gun, you're still going to be playing a huge role in completing this Easter egg, which can be fun, but also really difficult. If one person on your team has no idea what they're doing, you most likely won't ever get past the first step, or even unlock Pack-a-Punch. So while the steps themselves aren't that bad, with the amount of communication that your team needs, this can be one of the hardest Easter eggs in Zombies. Moving into our number 8 spot, we have Shadows of Evil. Shadows of Evil is the first Easter egg on this list that can be pretty hard to understand for newer players in COD Zombies. Opening up the Pack-a-Punch is one of the first steps on this map, and it can take quite a while to do so. Even for mediocre Zombies players, opening up the Pack-a-Punch on Shadows of Evil can actually be a challenge. Crafting and upgrading the sword is the next step on this map, which requires you to kill a lot of zombies and take down a lot of Margwas. Not only do you as an individual have to build and upgrade your own sword, but so does everyone else on your team. Then you move on to the last few steps, which are some of the hardest that we have ever seen in Zombies. The flag step can genuinely be really challenging, even for veteran players. With no Apothicon Servant or Gobblegums, this is a really tough Easter egg step. After you're done with the flag step, you do the boss fight, which honestly isn't that bad. Depending on what weapons you bring in, you can end this boss fight pretty fast. And with the last step, you have another really challenging step that requires a lot of communication. One player has to buy the train, and then everyone has to zap a box, as well as some keepers at the same time in order to fully finish this Easter egg. Shadows of Evil takes the communicative aspects from Shangri-La and mixes it in with some harder steps. This makes for a fun yet super challenging experience that deserves to take our number 8 spot. Now, coming into our next Easter egg, at our number 7 spot, we have Ancient Evil from Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 in general has a lot of hard Easter eggs, and Ancient Evil is no exception. Just to get started with this Easter egg, you have to do a lot of trials, which depending on your luck and skill, can take a really long time. There are really hard steps that require a lot of accuracy and timing for this Easter egg too, like the cog step, where you have to throw your spear at the right time, or the dial step, where you have to kill an electrical zombie at a certain time and hold the interact button at the best time. And you also have the sharpshooter step, which can take multiple attempts to complete if one of your teammates isn't fully focused. I love this Easter egg a lot because it forces players to strive for perfect accuracy while also utilizing every single feature that the map has to offer. Every single gauntlet serves a purpose for a specific step, and so do the little things throughout the map like the acid trap and the Pegasus strike. The only reason I can't put this map higher up on the list is because of the boss fight. It is very similar to Gorod Krovi, where it looks really cool, but if you bring in the Helion Salvo, it can be beaten pretty quickly. So for that, we're going to be putting this Easter egg at our number 7 spot. Moving into our number 6 spot, we have Buried from Black Ops 2. Now, this map is not that bad when it comes to normal survival in early rounds, but if you want to attempt the Easter egg, not only do you need a full team with very competent players, but they have to be incredibly skilled as well. There are many difficult steps throughout this Easter egg, like the iconic sharpshooter step, the round infinity mode, which makes it to where you can't kill any zombies, but they can kill you, and the lantern puzzle step, which I still don't understand to this day. When it comes to Easter eggs in Black Ops 2, this is the only one that I have not yet completed, not only because of the requirements needed before you even load into the map, but because it can be very difficult in different ways for each member on your team. The sharpshooter step can be failed instantly if one person misses their target, which usually ends up leading to someone leaving the game. The reward for this Easter egg is very worth it though, since it provides a really long fire cell and a mule kick that can give you 4 guns, so it does have incentive for players to grind through it. Plus, there are just harder Easter eggs out there that I can't put buried higher up on the list. So for that, we are going to be putting this map at our number 6 spot. Now, coming into our top 5 hardest Easter eggs, at our number 5 spot, we have Gorod Krovi. This Easter egg requires a lot of skill and knowledge when it comes to core mechanics of Call of Duty Zombies. And what I mean when I say this is that throughout this Easter egg, there are very few steps that require you to do a puzzle of some sort. The only ones that I could think of off the top of my head is the bomb step and the valve step. Every other step on this map forces you to utilize the fastest and most efficient way to kill zombies. For example, when opening up the Pack-a-Punch, you have to kill zombies fast before they destroy the Graph modules, or if you're doing the Valkyrie drone escort step, you have to be very careful to kill all the zombies without damaging the drone in any way. When you are finished with all of these Easter egg steps, you have the boss fight, which on one hand can be done very quickly if you have a good loadout like some Gobblegums and the Raygun Mark III, but on the other hand, it can be very difficult if you go in with base weapons. The overall pacing of this Easter egg is very, very fast. You'll notice as you're doing these steps that the rounds fly by really quickly because of the amount of zombies that you have to kill. Overall, when it comes to Gorod Krovi, it can be a very difficult map when going in blind for the first time, but if you're bringing a proper loadout and you somewhat know what you're doing, it can be easier than a lot of the other maps on this list. So for that, we're going to be putting Gorod Krovi at our number 5 spot. Coming into our number 4 spot, we have Origins. There are a lot of factors that go into making a hard Easter egg. For Ancient Evil, you need to be very accurate and precise throughout every single step. For Moon, you need an ungodly amount of luck. And with Origins, you need all of those factors and a really high IQ. There are so many things that you have to memorize throughout this Easter egg, like staff upgrade symbols, small cheats, skips and exploits, but you also need a good amount of luck as well when it comes to getting the right robot foot or getting a good snow round for the ice staff, or even a perfectly timed nuke to kill all the Templar zombies before they take the generators. Origins is also a really long Easter egg for newer and even veteran players. Your first attempt can take 2 to 3 hours long to complete, and most of the time it's gonna be doing the first step, which is building and upgrading all the staffs. If you are a really good speedrunner, then you can complete this Easter egg in under an hour, but for most players, it's gonna take you a fat minute to complete this Easter egg. Overall, when it comes to Origins, it requires a lot of knowledge about the map and a good amount of luck and skill that it definitely deserves to be in the top 5, but I can't put it into the top 3 because there's not a major threat while playing through this Easter egg. The Panzers easily die when you have a staff, and there's no boss fight towards the end, so there really isn't a challenge when it comes to core zombie mechanics, but it still is a difficult Easter egg nonetheless. Moving into our number 3 spot, I was debating if I should even put this map on this list because it's kind of a disgrace when it comes to Easter eggs in zombies. It's classified. This Easter egg has no special puzzles that you have to solve, no different locations that you have to go to, no in-depth storytelling while doing the steps. You have one objective: get to round 150, which not only takes forever, but on Black Ops 4 is pretty much impossible without breaking the game, since you'll most likely hit a crash before you reach that point. I think it would have been better if they did round 100 or even round 115 instead, because that would make more sense and be easier for players to digest. I think it's kind of stupid to play for 8 hours straight just so that you can get a 2-minute cutscene that you can watch online. There are strategies that make this Easter egg really easy when it comes to skill, but 95% of COD Zombies players don't have the willpower to play for that long in a single game. The entire Easter egg requires you to sit in a corner with the shield holding down a few buttons at a time for hours on end, and it just sucks. Overall, while this Easter egg is easy to understand, when it comes to actually attempting to do it, it's one of the hardest. Coming into our number 2 spot, we have Voyage of Despair from Black Ops 4. This Easter egg is not suited at all for newer players. The first step, which is the clock step, requires a lot of knowledge, memorization, and puzzle solving skills. The main purpose for including the clock step as the first step in this Easter egg is to filter out all the bad players, because after that step, it doesn't get much better or easier. You have the planet step, which is single-handedly one of the hardest steps ever introduced into zombies. You need a lot of knowledge about the solar system to get a grasp about how this step actually works. Then you need to remember the order of the planets normally, then a random order that is given when you start the step. Oh, and zombies constantly spawn and attack you while you're looking up at the sky, looking for certain planets to shoot down. It's a cool step in theory, but in reality, it's super hard and really annoying to do. The only step that is somewhat easy is where you have to shoot all the pipes down in the boiler room to get the whole area flooded, but getting up to that point is a pain. Then in the end, when you have to finally do the boss fight, it still doesn't get easier. This is one of, if not the hardest boss fight to do in Call of Duty Zombies. You have multiple stages that require you to deal a lot of damage in order to pass, and if you don't have a Helion salvo, it's pretty much impossible. For all these reasons, Voyage of Despair definitely deserves the number 2 spot. And coming into our number 1 spot for the hardest Easter egg in all of Call of Duty Zombies, it's Blood of the Dead. Before you even clicked on this video, you already knew that Blood of the Dead was going to be at least in the top 3. You know an Easter egg goes way too far with the difficulty when hardcore veteran zombie players start complaining about how difficult this Easter egg is. When I attempted to complete this Easter egg for the first time, it took me 2 weeks, 6 hours a day, non-stop to finally have a successful run. And the game that was successful took me 4.5 hours. Now, I'm not the best player in the world when it comes to COD Zombies, but I had confidence coming into this map because in my mind, I was like, Okay, I was able to complete Voyage and Origins within a reasonable time. How hard can Blood of the Dead be? I got hit with reality pretty badly once I started to realize how insane some of these steps are. The Simon Says step is one of the hardest steps in Zombies. You have to interact with certain machines in a certain order while standing in a small area surrounded by zombies. Then you have to take multiple codes to a completely different area of the map to enter them in. And if you fail at any point, you have to completely redo the challenge. The only somewhat easy part of this Easter egg is the final boss, but even that has its own issues since if your shield breaks in the boss fight, you fail the entire Easter egg. Blood of the Dead is not only the hardest Easter egg to complete in Treyarch Zombies, but one of the hardest in all of Call of Duty Zombies. So for that, we're gonna be putting Blood of the Dead at our number 1 spot. Anyways, guys, if you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, do all that. Leave your comments down below if you want to see me do any other type of content. Check down the description as well for more zombie-related videos. And yeah, I got nothing much else to say, so peace.